Hello everyone, and today I'm going to be talking about the Belle album by Al Green. I'll just show you the front cover and the details on the back. And this was Al Green's 12th album, which came out in 1977, and it was the first to be produced without Willie Mitchell. The signs had been there for a while that Willie Mitchell wasn't particularly happy working with Al Green. There'd been a distinct lack of imagination on the 10th and 11th albums, both recorded in 1976, Full of Fire and Have a Good Time. On top of that, Al Green had become a born-again Christian in 1973, and there were rumours flying about that Willie Mitchell wasn't happy with the direction that Al Green wanted to go, and because he was going to start touching upon his Christian faith in his music. And so with Mitchell pulling out, there was a radical change in the sound on this album. The beautiful coating of strings, which was Willie Mitchell's trademark sound for Al Green, that was gone, and it was replaced by a rather anemic, cheap sounding swathe of synthesizer. In the liner notes, it refers to something called a polyphonic orchestron, whatever that is, basically a cheap synthesizer. Also, the high rhythm section was no longer available for Al Green, and also he couldn't use Willie Mitchell's Royal Recording Studio. But in fact, Al Green rose to the challenge that was presented to him, and he went ahead and produced the album himself in a home-built studio. He played lead guitar on the whole of the album. Most importantly, he co-wrote all the songs with musicians Fred Jordan and Reuben Fairfax Jr. And the result is a highly personal insight into the troubled mind of Al Green at that time. To give you a bit of a background, in October 1974, he'd rejected a marriage proposal from his then girlfriend, and she went and poured hot grits on him while he was having a bath, and she then got a gun and killed herself. And it took him a long time to get over the trauma of the whole event, and also the severe burns that he received at the time. By the time of recording the Belle album, he'd married someone else, but apparently, according to his wife, he was violent towards her from the very start of their marriage. So, as you can see, he was quite a troubled person at that time. As for the tracks on the album, it's very much a mixed bag, but I'll take you through the tracks, and certainly there's 3 or 4 tracks on here which really do deserve to be heard. The opening track on side 1, Belle, this reflects on his inner turmoil between following a secular or a Christian path. The lyrics include the line, "Belle, it's you that I want, but it's him that I need." And the him, of course, he's referring to is God. At this point, he was already the Reverend Al Green, and he would soon devote all of his time to being the pastor at the Full Gospel Tabernacle Church in Memphis. Reuben Fairfax Jr.'s bass, one of the co-writers on the album, is an absolute standout on this track, and indeed his playing on the whole of the album is excellent. And the vocal gymnastics by Green towards the end of the song are just out of this world. And surely Prince must have listened to this track at the time and took note. Next up, we've got the track Loving You. This is another religious song with horn embellishments and a rather apologetic funky guitar. I'm not sure if Al Green supplied that guitar sound. Anyway, after that we've got Feels Like Summer, and this is very weak production. I think it sounds like a demo to me. You've got one person clapping in the background, some sparse instrumentation, muted horns, It really lacks any oomph. But the album, side one of the album, ends on a high with the track Georgia Boy. It's an extended, nostalgic reminiscence by Al Green on his Georgia childhood. The sparse sound built upon his acoustic guitar strumming and Fairfax's upfront bass sort of adds to the intimacy of the recording. Side two opens with another of the weaker tracks on the album, I Feel Good, which has a disco beat and also has those dreaded, horrible sin drums popular at the time and really dates this track. It meanders along for over 5 minutes as Green tries to convince you that he does indeed feel good, but I'm not convinced. There's then a couple of upbeat tracks, All in All and Chariots of Fire, but again lyrically they're full of God rock cliche phrases. But the album ends on possibly the best track, Dream, and the album's really saved by this track. It's a slow, soulful performance, real vintage Green, and the female backing vocalists shine. It's got a similar feel, I think, to the album Gonna Take a Miracle by Laura Nyro and LaBelle, and that's an album I can highly recommend if you've not heard it. Anyway, this is, as I say, a spine-tingling track. It fades out prematurely and then returns for a euphoric finale. So I suppose, yeah, it's a bit of a mixed bag, but the longer tracks, Belle, Dream, Georgia Boy, they really make this a bit special, I think. The critics, got a couple of reviews by critics. Christian Horde, writing in the New Rolling Stone Record Guide from 2004, said, "The Belle Album's gently funky heat can melt the coldest, most atheistic resolve." And Grill Marcus, writing in Rolling Stone magazine, said, "We may someday look back on the Belle Album as Al Green's best, and if we do, the beat will be the reason."